Hello, English 12. Today we're going to take notes on Ode on a Grecian Urn, which is a poem by John Keats. We've talked about stanza before, but in this section of our book, it does mention analyzing stanza structures, so we're going to discuss it really quickly again. A stanza is a group of lines that form a unit in a poem. In traditional poetic forms, stanzas often contain the same number of lines and have the same rhyme scheme and meter, which are terms that we also discussed in a previous set of notes. Now, what do we mean by number of lines? Well, if you look in this example on the right, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines in stanza 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in stanza 2. There are probably 6 lines in stanza 3. They share most of the time they share the same number of lines within a stanza. That helps add to the structure. If they don't, it's fair game to analyze. Stanzas often function like paragraphs in prose, each presenting a discrete idea or a separate idea. So it's not likely that from stanza to stanza you will be talking about the exact same thing, although it is possible. Odes can vary in structure. Ode on a Grecian Urn has 5 stanzas and a regular structure of 10 lines of iambic pentameter. Now, when you hear the word iambic pentameter, you should immediately think of Shakespeare. Why? Most of his work, if not all, was written in iambic pentameter, which is a meter or a metrical pattern of 5 feet or units. Each iambic foot consists of 2 syllables, the first unstressed and the second one stressed. And what does this look like? So if we see this example, thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time. So each syllable represents a different part of the foot. So thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time. So the stressed syllables are where okay, let's talk about syllables first. If you put your hand underneath your chin when you say a word, when you say one word, however many times your chin hits your hand, that's how many syllables it has. So thou, for example, your chin only drops 1 time, so it has 1 syllable. Still, again, only 1. Unravished. That has 3 syllables because your jaw drops 3 times when you say that word. A stressed syllable is where when you naturally say it, it's a little more emphasized. So thou still unravished bride in quietness. So still is definitely stressed. Bride is definitely stressed. And the beginning of quietness. So thou still unravished bride of quietness. Thou foster child of silence and slow time. Thou foster child of silence and slow time. Sorry, it's a little bit weird the first time. Anytime there is a stressed syllable, you indicate it with an upward hash. And I use the commas here because that's what's used in your book. But normally we use for unstressed and like a slash for stressed. But it helps give meter or like a beat to it, like a rhyme, for example. Poets, including Keats, sometimes vary the meter of a poem to emphasize certain words and to keep the poem from sounding too monotonous. So if you have a set meter or a set beat, and then that beat changes all of a sudden, it adds a little bit of life to the poem, and it kind of throws the reader off, or it should throw you off a little bit, and it allows you to kind of pay attention to like, oh, hey, it's not like somebody speaking where you're like, oh, it's so boring, all right? It gives a little livelihood to it. You can better understand a poem if you read it out loud, noticing which words are stressed. Most of the time, if you just read something out loud, you can tell which syllables are stressed and which aren't. Sometimes it's difficult, and I will definitely concede to that. But a lot of times if you read it out loud as opposed to saying it silently in your head, you stand a better chance of understanding it. Now, also notice the main idea expressed in each stanza. stanzas are different. They might have a general topic, but it's like a paragraph in an essay. They're each slightly different, and you want to pay attention to, okay, what is this one talking about versus what is this one talking about? Because that can completely change the way you interpret the poem. What are the genre elements of an ode? Well, lyric poem, it's a lyric poem that develops a single theme, has a serious tone, appeals to both the imagination and intellect or intelligence, may commemorate an event or praise people or nature's beauty. This one is an ode to a Grecian urn. I'll actually show you what that is in a second. But you can write odes to nature. Or an ode to my beloved, right? These things, you can write an ode to pretty much anything. Analyzing rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme is the pattern of end rhyme that helps establish the structure of unity of stanza and adds to the poem's musicality. Rhyme scheme is described using letters such as ABAB or AABB, where lines that rhyme are given the same letter. So in this example, true friends are by your side through it all. True friends are there to catch you when you fall. Side would be marked with A, and nothing else rhymes with that, so it's the only A. All and fall in lines 2 and 4 rhyme, so we mark at the end of that line with B, both lines. And then C is also different, so line 3 is also different with there, so we mark this as C. We use a new letter. That makes the rhyme scheme for this poem A, B, C, B. A, B, C, B. We can expect that the next stanza will follow the same. You will be asked to mark the rhyme scheme in the poem that we're going to read, and so it's really important that you understand how to do this. I expect you to be marking the rhyme scheme at the end of the line because that's the standard format, okay? So don't mark it at the beginning, mark it at the end, because this is the way you will always see it marked in someone's annotations. Now, certain poetic forms, such as sonnets, follow a set rhyme scheme. And we're not talking about a sonnet this time, so I'm not going to take the time to go over it, although I'm sure we will discuss sonnets in the near future. But sonnets follow a set rhyme scheme. Means like if somebody's saying I'm writing a sonnet, then they're going to follow whatever the rhyme scheme that goes with that. Right, so in a Shakespearean sonnet, for example, it goes A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. And you know if it's a Shakespearean sonnet, it must follow that rhyme scheme. But again, there's no set rhyme scheme for an ode. So Keats' ode on a Grecian urn, the Grecian urn is literally the picture that's on the right here, has a complex rhyme scheme. The first 4 lines of each stanza rhyme A, B, A, B. The next 6 lines follow one of these patterns, C, D, E, D, C, E, C, D, E, C, E, D, or C, D, E, C, D, E. Now, because of these variations, the rhyming becomes a little more subtle and more unexpected as you move farther along the stanza, because those, I mean, honestly, if you saw 2 of the 3 patterns, the first 2, for example, they don't really look like they're rhyming, although if there's a repetition of stanza after stanza after stanza, obviously that becomes the rhyme scheme. But it's weird. It's not a normal rhyme scheme. And so you don't notice it as much as you continue to read because it is so different. But yeah, the Grecian urn is this picture over here. It's a piece of art from the Greeks, as you know, you can assume from the title. And so Keats is writing this looking at this Grecian urn. And now the grammatical structure that we're supposed to analyze in this section of this unit is apostrophe. Now, we're not talking about apostrophe in terms of the punctuation mark. This apostrophe and that apostrophe are not the same things. We're talking about apostrophe, the figure of speech, which is different, right? So when you're talking about an apostrophe, the figure of speech, it's where the speaker addresses an object, abstract concept, or absent or imaginary person as if it's present and able to understand, okay? So we're talking, when the poet is talking about something that's not physically there, not able to communicate with you, I should say, as if it can communicate with you. So for example, in this poem, he's literally talking to this Grecian urn as if it is a thing that can respond to him and give life, but it can't. Poets often use apostrophe to express strong emotions. Sorry, you're missing an X in express, my apologies. Express strong emotions. This device was especially popular among the Romantic poets. If you look at the example, it's on the right. O Attic shape, fair attitude, with breed of marble men and maidens overright. Here the speaker addresses the urn as one might speak to an admired person, heightening the reader's sense of his emotional response to seeing the urn. So if you're talking about this piece of pottery, like it's the sheikh, okay, that's how he's addressing this in terms of his language. It's so proper, and he's just desiring to want to know more about this thing. That is not how you would normally speak to a piece of pottery, right? So this is an apostrophe. He's speaking to it as if it can have some sort of response with him. Now, that's it for the slides today. For your assignment, I want some proof that you've taken notes. Submit the notes to Google Classroom, and have a great day, guys.